In those years of famine, to ensure my younger brother could continue his studies, I sold myself into servitude, becoming a menial laborer of the lowest rank. For I knew well that only if my brother succeeded in his examinations could we truly achieve greatness. Little brother, I have returned. No sooner had I reached our thatched cottage than my brother rushed over to ask, "Brother, where are the wild greens? Why did it take so long to gather them?" Li Xiaofan's small frame was swallowed by the oversized tattered robe he wore. The two of us had been sharing the same single garment. I smiled and said, "What need is there for wild greens? Today, we feast on meat." As I spoke, I produced a small portion of pork I had bought on my way back from the market. It was not much, but enough for the two of us to finally savor the taste of flesh. Li Xiaofan's small body trembled as he had already guessed the reason. I laughed heartily. "I have sold my services. The Yehe Manor paid me 525 copper coins, and there is a new set of clothes as well, though from this day forth, I will no longer be free to come and go as I please. Little brother, let us enjoy a proper meal. Father's old robe I leave for you to wear. With the remaining 500 coins you must study with diligence. I shall work within the manor, and whenever I have excess money, I will seek a chance to bring it to you." Tears welled up in Li Xiaofan's eyes. I laughed brightly and gently patted his head. "I am your elder brother. This small burden is but my duty. You possess the talent to never forget what you see. Such a gift is something I could never hope to match." "Right, I have recently gained new insights into the ferocious oxfist. I shall practice it a few times for you to see. You must commit this to memory, for having some martial skill will serve as protection." Li Xiaofan wiped his tears and nodded firmly. I assumed my stance right there in the room, delivering a punch that mimicked the charge of a maddened beast. Suddenly, lines of pale golden text manifested from thin air, hovering directly before my eyes. 10,000 punches cast, willpower tempered, indomitable and unyielding, awakening initiated. Heaven rewards the diligent. For every effort expended, there shall be a harvest. Ferocious oxfist proficiency. 4 punch of rustic simplicity. An aura like a rampaging ox, refining the flesh and blood. There are no shortcuts for this martial technique. It is attained only through arduous training. Li Xiaofan asked, "Brother, what has come over you?" I smiled and ruffled Li Xiaofan's hair. "It is nothing. Little brother, we must strive to become stronger so that we are no longer bullied by others. It seems that my transmigration to this world was not without its own golden advantage. I practiced my punches repeatedly again and again. With an iron will, even the most stubborn obstacles must eventually yield. One day I was tasked with cleaning an abandoned chamber. The weeds were overgrown, their roots buried deep within the earth, making them exhausting to pull. After working for only a short while, my back was already aching with fatigue. I patiently pulled them one by one, and my proficiency increased by 1. Weeding beginner level, proficiency 125 out of 500. Pulling weeds, a minor skill. A minor skill. From a 3-year-old child to an 80-year-old man. Who does not know how to perform such a task? While the basics are easy to master, reaching true proficiency depends on the whims of heaven. A beginner's prompt appeared. Every time I bent to pull a weed, I gained something, gradually uncovering the secrets until my speed increased significantly. Weeding no longer seemed as exhausting as it once did. My proficiency bar was full. My weeding skill reached mastery. I stood tall, feet firmly planted on the earth, back straight as the heavens. Though this path is trivial, it holds the essence of the Dao within it. Young man, have you gained any enlightenment? At this moment, my progress on the path of weeding was equivalent to a servant who had diligently cultivated for several years. A mere servant? When one's fate is not in their own hands, how can one afford to be idle? If I were to finish my work too quickly, completing the task ahead of schedule, I would undoubtedly be assigned to perform other chores. It is better to intentionally pace myself, using the remaining time to refine my own abilities. Thus, while taking breaks from weeding, I would occasionally pause to strike at the air, practicing the Manhwa fist. I grew increasingly adept, and with every punch I could feel the tangible results of my labor. I worked until dusk, pausing only once for a meager lunch. Although it lacked any grease or substance, it was enough to satisfy my hunger. My proficiency was full. The Manhwa fist technique had reached mastery. The Manhwa fist was fierce, its power startling. I felt a current of warmth flowing toward my lower abdomen. This is internal energy. This world possesses internal energy. I could sense this warmth, though I could not fully define what it was. Having never been exposed to the path of a martial artist, I knew only that this sensation was beneficial and held no harm. I attempted to use my consciousness to guide the stream of warmth, directing it into my fist before throwing another punch. As my fist sheared through the air, it emitted a faint sound reminiscent of a wild beast's roar. I was overwhelmed with joy, yet I dared not grow arrogant or careless, and quickly lowered my head to resume weeding. As twilight fell, the overseer arrived at the dilapidated quarters to inspect the work of each laborer. "Damn it, what kind of cleaning is this?" He swiped his finger across the corner of a wardrobe, revealing a thin layer of dust, and immediately flew into a rage, raining down blows upon the servant. The servant was beaten until his face was bruised and swollen, yet he dared not utter a single word of protest. Selling oneself into servitude may provide a meager crust of bread to survive the day, but the bitterness and humiliation must be swallowed in silence. Your work is unacceptable. Do not expect to rest tonight. As it happens, the herb garden is short-handed. Go there and provide assistance. Bichao waved his hand dismissively before moving on to inspect the next area, demanding to know who was responsible for the latrine. Upon reaching the latrine, Bichao's expression turned chillingly somber. It was a newly arrived servant, only 11 or 12 years of age, roughly the same as Li Xiaofan. What is this? Bichao pointed at a smear of excrement glaring at the servant with an air of absolute superiority. The servant, confused by the situation, did not understand his intent. Bichao issued a cold command, leaving the servant frozen in shock. Lick it clean. With a sneer, Bichao grabbed the servant by the hair and shoved his head toward the filth. Ah, what are you doing? Lick it clean, I said. I'll lick it. I'll lick it. Humiliated, the servant complied with the order. Bichao swept his gaze across the crowd, warning them, let me make this clear to you all. Do not be fooled because this is an abandoned estate. Everyone residing here is a companion of the Madame, individuals of renowned status and influence. Even their waste is as precious as gold and silver, let alone the likes of you. Even I, if the Madame were to command it, would obey without hesitation. And I would consider it an honor. Bichao turned his gaze back to the servant. Does it smell? Fearing further violence, the servant hurriedly nodded. Bichao let out a burst of laughter. That is how it should be, isn't it? This is what a servant is, a servant who has sold their very soul. If you had any shred of talent, you might still hold some value or status, but you have none. No one among the crowd dared to respond. Some wore expressions of numb despair, others bore their humiliation in silence, yet I simply shook my head in my heart. Regardless of how dire the circumstances may be, and no matter how humble one's station, a man cannot afford to lose his spirit, not even in the face of death. It was finally my turn. My task was to weed the garden. Bihao looked at me with a cryptic gaze before nodding. Very well, I went to the backyard and reached for the whip coiled around my waist. Compared to sweeping the grounds or clearing latrines, weeding was the most difficult task and the one hardest to satisfy. Either one fails to remove all the weeds or one leaves the soil in a mangled, muddy mess. Servant laborers assigned to weeding usually end up receiving lashes from the whip. Yet when Bihao arrived at the backyard, he was instantly struck dumb. Where were the weeds? I point toward the handcart beside me. I have finished weeding. It has all been loaded onto the cart. Bihao verified that there were no errors, then stomped his foot against the earth, visibly stunned. Not only had I pulled the weeds, but I had also leveled and packed the soil perfectly. This youth was either a veteran farmer or someone of meticulous nature, possessing great foresight and care. Not bad at all. What is your name? Bihao offered a rare, genuine smile. My name is Li Xian. I answered truthfully. Bihao shook his head and remarked, that is a poor name. It is ill-suited for a mere servant. You worked well today. You may head to the accounting office to collect 3 wen as a reward. Rest well tonight and strive to do even better tomorrow. I thank Elder Bai for the reward, I shouted, following the usual custom. The bow I offered was not a loss of spirit, but the calculated submission of one who has truly grasped the reality of his situation. Upon hearing the title Elder B, he felt a surge of satisfaction and patted my shoulder with a loud laugh. Haha, this young man is quite sharp-witted. As night fell, I lay on my wooden bed, unable to find sleep. I pondered over Bihao's words, realizing he was not wrong. Even a lowly laborer must possess a skill to rely upon. If I could master cooking or a bit of gardening, life within the manor would surely become much easier. If there is an opportunity, one should strive to rise, though for a transmigrator, such an ambition seems rather modest. I immediately stopped overthinking and closed my eyes to drift into slumber. In the blink of an eye, the 5th watch arrived, though the sky had yet to brighten. I jolted awake and suddenly a flash appeared before my eyes. Sleep skill. Proficient. Proficiency in dicing. Novice. Since ancient times, who among mortals has not slept? Do not wait until the final eternal slumber to realize how precious sleep truly is. Could it be that this sleep, ordinary to the point of being mundane, actually held a hidden secret within it? Before I could contemplate further, the chore steward struck the gong. Rise and shine, rise and shine. It is time to begin your work. That cry was the signal for each and every day. Once the shout echoed, it heralded the beginning of another day of labor. Because I performed well weeding yesterday, steward he assigned me to the backyard of the Yellow Manor, where I was solely responsible for weeding. I found the task to be leisurely and pleasant. This patch of weeds was nothing to me. Now that I was accustomed to the work, it was far easier than other chores. Rolling up my sleeves and bending my back, I buried myself in the labor. In the blink of an eye, dusk arrived, and steward he came to patrol as per his routine. Seeing the weeds in the backyard cleared away, organized and tidy, he nodded to himself in approval. Yet this time he did not reward me with coins, merely stating coldly, very well, tomorrow go to the adjacent courtyard and continue weeding. Several days passed in this manner, and I did not need to perform any other tasks, remaining solely responsible for weeding. Outsiders assumed that I was enduring great hardship, but they did not know that my spare time was becoming increasingly abundant. After clearing the weeds in the backyard, it only took half a day. I spent the remaining time practicing the fierce bull fist. By that evening, my proficiency in dicing was fully mastered. The weeding technique had reached the lesser mastery stage. After plucking grass 1,000 times, a miracle naturally manifested as the rhythm of one's breath began to reveal hidden mysteries. According to the manual, while weeding, I focused on my breathing and felt the exhaustion in my limbs dissipate significantly. After mastering the memory of the weeding technique, it seemed to have bolstered my patience and my ability to withstand fatigue. This effect appeared to originate from the rhythm of my breath. I discovered that my breathing was becoming increasingly fluid, possessing an indescribable natural quality that was undeniably beneficial. By comparison, the progress of the savage oxfist was somewhat slower, but it was still significant. I could feel the current of heat in my dantian growing. What was once a mere wisp had now thickened to the size of a finger. My punches carried more weight, and these improvements provided me with a shred of security. Although weeding day after day granted me plenty of free time, it did nothing to improve my station in life. How could I break through this predicament? I could not help but ponder. Now that I have entered the depths of this estate, I must seize every opportunity to climb higher. It has been a long time since I last saw my younger brother. Today I must ask Steward Bai if it is possible to send a letter home. The sun had not yet set, and I had already finished weeding the designated area. I hurried back to the servants' quarters, but just as I was about to knock and enter, I heard voices from within. The voice of Steward Luofeng spoke first. You may wield some authority managing these servants, appearing impressive on the surface, but in terms of true status and standing, you remain nothing more than a lowly servant. Uncle Luo, you speak the truth. I am well aware of this. Bihao remained exceptionally submissive, assuming Uncle Luo had come to reprimand him. I have come to see you this time to bring you news. The madam is preparing to select a physically robust guard from among the servants. To become a house guard is a completely different matter. One may be granted cultivation resources by the madam, and one's future would be immensely bright. Uncle Luo, is this truly the case? You must help me. Immediately after, a thud echoed through the room. Bihao had knelt to beg, simultaneously offering a cup of hot tea. Luofeng nodded inwardly, accepting the hot tea, blowing away the tea leaves floating on the surface before taking a small sip, acting like a man of status while consuming such cheap tea. Let out a long sigh and spoke leisurely. Of course, this matter is of vital importance to your future. I will not hide it from you. I too once served as a guard before. Although you are my nephew, if you wish to truly distinguish yourself, you must fight for it on your own. Master Pang has instructed me to announce this matter, informing the servants who wish to present themselves to him that they must prepare for the backyard guard selection competition. I have come to tell you first, and Ti Hao's face lit up with joy. What do those animals have that could compare to me? This position of backyard guard is undoubtedly mine. Lefang replied calmly, you cannot speak so recklessly. The guard selection competition emphasizes martial talent, foundation, physical strength, endurance, and character. Although you have a certain martial foundation, you have never truly been tested in battle. Furthermore, those animals are not fools. How could they let such an opportunity slip by? Naturally, they will risk their lives to seize it. Even if they must die, they will die on the arena floor. Are you saying that you are truly certain of success? Is it possible that Master Pang would not even grant you a shred of face? If by chance you are not chosen, this opportunity will be lost forever. Ti Hao spoke with hidden intent, begging for his guidance. In the future, I am willing to serve you like a beast of burden to repay your kindness. Ti Hao kowtowed 3 times heavily. This matter is simple. Laughing said, during this time, you must focus solely on your fist training. Practice until you have mastered the 3 talents fist I have taught you. After that, arrange for those who look tall, strong and full of vitality to perform the most grueling heavy labor to exhaust their physical strength. Uncle Law, this scheme is truly brilliant. Ti Hao's face beamed with delight. It is not over yet. Lefang shook his head. That man surnamed Pang told me to spread the news. I naturally dare not disobey, but I can choose to do so deep in the night when everyone is fast asleep, mentioning it to as few people as possible. Ti Hao kowtowed again, his head striking the ground 3 times. For the great kindness and virtue of Uncle Law, I do not know how I shall ever repay you. Just remember my benevolence, and that will be enough. Lefang said, there are 15 days left until the guard selection. You must seize this opportunity well. I had overheard the entirety of their conversation, feeling a mix of both anger and excitement in my heart. Daring not to stay long, I hurriedly retreated to my abandoned room. This man named Ti Hao clearly possesses decent strength, yet he prefers to resort to such underhanded tactics. But fortunately, now that I am aware, I shall remain hidden, register in secret, and struggle to suppress the excitement rising within me. In the backyard of the dilapidated room, I practiced the Python Demon Fist technique repeatedly. Would this be the key to finally standing above the rest? Everything hinges on this martial art. As Duskfell arrived to conduct his usual patrol, I feigned ignorance, acting as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. Bihao gave a faint nod. Good, very good. You have done well today. Little Li, you may go to the manager's office to collect 3 wen as a reward. I bowed, saying, seeing your face glowing with radiance and your forehead full, you must have encountered some good fortune, haven't you? I wiped the sweat from my brow, pretending to be utterly exhausted. Ha 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 ha. Bihao laughed heartily. You little brat, you certainly have a keen eye. As for what kind of good fortune it is, do not ask. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. On the contrary, for you, just keep obediently pulling these weeds. Do your job well and there will be more rewards to collect. Thinking too much will only tire your brain. His tone was laced with disdain and contempt. As he spoke, a thought suddenly crossed his mind. He looked me up and down. This kid looked quite tall and sturdy, and he was clearing weeds with such ease. His physical stamina must be quite decent. Little Li, there are several abandoned houses here, along with patches of overgrown land. How about this? You clear the weeds from 1 abandoned house each day. I see how hard you are working, so I have personally put in a word for you. If you do a good job each day, you shall receive 3 wen as a reward. I sneered inwardly, yet I put on a joyous expression. Manager, is this true? If I can earn 3 wen for clearing 1 abandoned house a day, wouldn't that mean 30 wen in 10 days? Bihao laughed loudly, feeling immensely satisfied with himself. I never expected you, little brat, to be quite skilled at calculating. After Bia departed, my expression returned to a calm state and I quietly tightened my fist. I must seize this opportunity. Within these 15 days, I must strive to bring the Python Demon Fist to the minor success stage. When the day of the competition arrives, I will catch Bihao off guard and strike. Only then will I have a chance at victory. A surge of burning ambition rose within me, my gaze becoming resolute and piercing. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed and I remained in the backyard. I unleashed a punch of formidable power, the momentum shocking, tearing through the air with such friction that in my state of focus I could almost hear the roar of a wild ox. My proficiency in the incomplete Manhwa fist has reached 412. The essence of this technique lies in concealment, restraint, and stillness, for only by remaining calm and unhurried can one accomplish great things. Hearing footsteps approaching, I hastily withdrew my stance, bowed my head, and plucked at the weeds, feigning laziness. I have long since mastered this routine of pulling weeds while practicing my fist techniques. It is the perfect ruse to deceive those on patrol. There are 12 days remaining. At this rate, my Manhwa fist will surely advance, reaching the minor mastery realm. It is a pity that this fist technique is but a fragment, lacking a complete system. My greatest rival is Bihao. He practices the Santa Fist, though I know not the true extent of his skills. At the very least, he possesses a complete set of techniques. If we were to face each other directly, unless I could defeat him with a single unexpected strike, he would surely rely on the completeness of his martial art, and the victory would undoubtedly be his. To know one's enemy and oneself is to never suffer defeat in 100 battles. In a few days' time, I shall sneak a look at Bihao practicing his fist techniques. Hearing the footsteps fade into the distance, I kicked the pile of weeds aside, spread my feet wide, and resumed my practice of the Manhwa fist. In the blink of an eye, 3 more days passed, and my proficiency in the Manhwa fist climbed to 712. To reach the minor mastery realm before the Servant Disciples tournament is a certainty. What pleases me even more is that my weeding technique has reached great mastery. Through pulling countless weeds, I suddenly experienced an epiphany. The weeds are never ending, yet when the spring breeze blows, all things flourish once more. The truth of endless life lies within. I possess a resilience greater than the average man, having attained enlightenment through the act of weeding, and I feel that I have become far more composed, having endured the monotony and solitude, and withstood the exhaustion and the bitter cold. Just as I thought things would continue this way, a sudden ringing of a brass gong echoed one afternoon. I furrowed my brows. This was the assembly signal for the servant disciples. Anyone who fails to gather after the 3rd strike of the gong faces immediate execution. Before the servant quarters, over 1,000 disciples were already gathered, pushing and shoving one another. I squeezed my way into the center of the crowd. Despite our busy labor, everyone's faces were sallow and their hair disheveled. Their tattered, mismatched robes were all stained a uniform shade of gray. My own torn garments were no exception. While we gathered, I took special note that Bichao was nowhere to be seen. Yet earlier, while passing by La Puang's quarters, I had vaguely heard the sound of flowing wind. In retrospect, could it be that La Puang had arranged for Bichao to practice martial arts inside his room? I pondered this quietly amidst the crowd. La Puang ordered the squad leaders to inspect the head count of their respective groups, and seeing that no one was missing, he finally spoke. You all are truly fortunate. Listen carefully, for I shall tell you this. To serve the Madam of the Manor is your greatest honor, a blessing that one could only pray for yet never obtain. As usual, La Puang launched into a long-winded speech, praising the mysterious Madam with words that seemed to come from the depths of his soul, before finally stating, the Madam wishes to prepare the golden treasure. This golden treasure requires a massive quantity of water for its preparation. From this day forth, all 1,000 of you shall set aside your current duties and focus entirely on transporting water from the mountain stream 3 miles away to the manor. The squad leaders surely already know what must be done. I need not provide further details, you may begin. As he flicked his sleeves and departed, I sensed that something was amiss. I pulled a fellow servant aside and asked, what is the meaning of this? Does preparing this golden treasure truly require 1,000 servants to transport water? Are you new here? The servant replied, how could we mortals ever comprehend the affairs of such great figures? We need only follow orders. Asking questions will serve you no purpose. Clouded by uncertainty, I was swept along by the current of people out of the manor. We were positioned about 30 zhang from the manor walls, when the leader of the 9th servant squad said to me, Number 27, you are to wait here. When you see the water bearers arrive, receive the load, and then pass the water to the next person in line. I immediately understood. As it turns out, this water transportation is being carried out via a relay system, where each person carries the water for a segment of the journey to ensure a constant, uninterrupted supply for the Madam of the Manor. A single thought from her is enough to keep us all scrambling in a frantic rush. I calmed myself and asked the foreman, how long does this situation typically last? Does our estate not have a water supply? The foreman frowned, his expression showing clear displeasure. Being quick-witted, I slipped 3 copper coins into the foreman's pocket and added, I am merely curious, I hope the foreman can enlighten me. The foreman accepted the coins, his expression softening considerably, and replied, telling you is no harm. A personage like the madam has a diet far different from our own. I heard that this time she is stewing a very exotic meat. It must be simmered thoroughly to neutralize its toxins. The estimate is that it must boil for 3 full days and 3 nights. Our estate certainly has water, but what if it proves insufficient? Therefore, we must begin transporting water the moment the stewing starts, so focus on your work. Every time this happens, those who survive receive a reward of 10 portions of silver along with a feast. At the very least, one gets to eat a drumstick. Teaske, that flavor. The foreman revealed an expression of intense anticipation. I felt utterly helpless. This unexpected incident has shattered my entire plan. I cannot cultivate my martial arts if I am stuck here hauling water all day. Meanwhile, that fellow is quietly practicing his martial arts. When compared, the gap between us widens instantly. But things have reached this point, so I have no choice but to endure. The difficulties in this world are numerous. To be easily discouraged and give up is absolutely not my style. The water is here. Where are you people in the back? Why aren't you hurrying over to receive the water? Easy there, be careful. If you spill any, you will be tasting the whip. On the distant mountain, the menial laborers carried a bucket in each hand, racing down the slope. After delivering the buckets, they hurried back up the mountain to continue hauling water. Over and over, they repeated the process. Seeing the menial laborers begin their frantic toil, Luofeng sneered, thinking to himself, "Heaven is truly helping me, a bunch of beasts." It is not that I, Luofeng, refuse to give you a chance to change your destiny, but that you were born with lowly fates and lack the fortune for greatness. Luofeng lay on his chair, watching the busy crowd with leisure. Whenever he grew tired of lying down, he would stand up and pace about. If anyone dared to slack off, he would lash them with his whip. Naturally, he controlled his strength with great precision, inflicting only flesh wounds without damaging the bones or sinews, and he struck only the back, never the hands or feet. His air of superiority was evident. It is truly easy to speak of hardship when one does not bear the burden. Witnessing the gazes of both admiration and fear from the laboring disciples, he felt a growing sense of satisfaction. Before long, twilight descended, and they were finally granted a brief moment of rest. A cook from the kitchens pushed a cart of steaming food over, distributing hot meals to each of the laborers in turn. As soon as the food touched their lips, the taste was distinctly different, far saltier than usual, yet this saltiness served as a life-saving remedy, helping them rapidly recover the strength required to continue their labor. At that moment, outside the gates, Lefang brandished his whip, the crack of it ringing sharply through the air. Though night had already fallen, the path for carrying water was lined with torches, yet the laborers continued to haul water without respite, gritting their teeth and enduring throughout the entire night. Exhausted to the point of collapse, the spirits of the laborers became dazed and unfocused. A heavy thud echoed as a laborer fell straight to the ground. Lefang let out a cold snort. Though the man still drew breath, it was clear he was beyond saving. Carry him away, such useless trash," he sneered. "It is a waste of the estate's resources to have raised him." With one person removed from the line of water bearers, the distance between each person naturally increased, and the burden was redistributed onto the shoulders of the remaining laborers. From that point on, every half hour another person would collapse. Some suffered ruptured heart meridians from exhaustion, while others endured the snapping of their tendons and limbs. As for me, though I was on the brink of death, I still held on, finally managing to persist until the fourth day and night. When the final bucket of water was poured into the bronze cauldron and turned into wisps of steam, the fires were extinguished. At last, it was done. The labor supervisor Lefang, the garrison commander Pang Long, and the others all bowed low, offering their respects to welcome the arrival of Madame Zhuang. I was also present. Standing in a secluded corner, I kept my head bowed, staring at my own feet. Casting a sideways glance, I could see the hem of Madame Zhuang's gown and her white silk shoes embroidered with phoenixes. I could not see her face, but I heard her voice echoing forth. "The finest portion of the meat has already been taken for my own use. As for the remaining broth, divide it into 10 parts. Pang Long, you shall take 7 parts. Distribute them as you see. Lefeng, take 3 portions, dilute them with water, and distribute them among the laborers so they may exert themselves for my sake. Consider this a reward." The voice was melodic, yet it carried an undeniable authority that brooked no resistance. Before the crowd could even recover their senses, a sudden gust of wind swept through, and the lady of the manor vanished without a trace. Lefang stepped forward, fawning as he spoke. "Big Brother Pang, we cannot possibly consume all 3 portions of the soup. Please accept these 2 portions as a humble offering from us." Pang Long, with his towering frame and coarse features, merely cast a single glance their way and spoke coldly. "The lady has already made her arrangements. If she said 3 portions, then it is 3 portions. Do you dare to defy her orders?" I dare not. Lefang offered a conciliatory smile, hurriedly wiping the sweat from his brow. Cold sweat poured down his face, and his legs trembled uncontrollably. Pang Long let out a cold snort, ordered his men to seize the remaining 7 portions of the soup, and turned to leave. Naturally, the 3 portions remained in Lefang's possession. Lefang deeply desired to keep it all for himself, but because Pang Long followed the lady's commands with absolute devotion, he dared not disobey even in the slightest. He muttered to himself, "The lady said to distribute it as I see fit. I shall consume 1.5 portions. I am at a critical juncture in my martial cultivation. I will give him 1 portion, and as for the remaining half, I shall dilute it with leaf water to make a soup. Feeding that to the laborers will suffice. It is more than they deserve." He was so engrossed in his own thoughts that he completely forgot I was standing right beside him, having heard every word. I could not help but clench my fists tightly. The lady of the manor's intent was clearly for all 3 portions to be shared among the laborers. Yet through Lefang's manipulation, Hao, who had done nothing at all, was still granted a portion of the soup. Meanwhile, Lafang intended to hoard 1.5 portions for himself. I tightened my grip, a flicker of ruthlessness hidden deep within my weary eyes. In these 3 remaining days, I must at all costs train the savage fish fist to the minor mastery stage. Setting this aside for the moment, the life of laborer returned to its monotonous routine. I continued to pull weeds, using this opportunity to refine my fist technique, reaching a proficiency of 756 1000. Proficient. But at my current pace, I fear 3 days will not be enough. I gritted my teeth, fortifying my resolve, and practiced my strikes with even greater urgency. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. My proficiency reached 872,000. Only 1 day remained. That afternoon, in the laborer's quarters, I made do with a simple meal of a steamed bun and water. I cast my gaze slowly across the surroundings, observing that neither Lafang nor Tat Hao were present, and the other laborers paid me no mind. I slipped away quietly. Once I was out of sight, I quickened my pace toward the guard's courtyard. The registration must be handled at the very last moment. That wretch Lafang is cunning and malicious. If I register too early, he will surely discover my intent and target me. If I fail to pass the guard's evaluation this time, my fate will be utterly tragic. Lafang will not spare me. This is a gamble where I either win everything or lose it all. I clenched my fists, my palms damp with sweat, yet my strides remained calm and steady, my eyes burning with resolve. After checking in at the laborer's quarters, I snuck into the abandoned room I usually sweep. Waiting until the night grew deep, under the cool moonlight and breeze, I threw punch after punch until the break of dawn. I struck out relentlessly, feeling neither fatigue nor sleepiness. Sweat soaked through my clothes until I was drenched as time drifted slowly by. Proficiency, 976 out of 1000, mastery reached. By now the sky was brightening, and the morning bell sounded from the laborer's quarters. If I have not miscalculated, the overseer has already begun the roll call. Lafang is likely aware that I did not return to my quarters for the night, and according to the rules of Niahoa Manor, he could even use this opportunity to stir up trouble, or have me executed. If a man does not strive for greatness, how is he worthy of the title? Rules are merely instruments used to bully the submissive. I ignored the sound of the morning bell, focusing only on throwing my fists time and time again. Proficiency, 989 out of 1000. You are truly bold, daring to stay out all night. Manager Law has spoken. If you appear immediately, he might still spare your life. Where are you hiding? Show yourself at once. I know you are nearby. The laborers of the 9th Squad searched everywhere. Lafang managed the laborers through a system of collective punishment. My disappearance had made the other laborers of the 9th Squad the most anxious. They quickly approached the abandoned building. At that very moment, my entire body trembled. A surge of warmth condensed within my dantian, refusing to dissipate. The proficiency bar was full. The residual form of the savage oxfist had reached minor completion. Heaven rewards those who labor. My nights of dedicated fist training have finally borne fruit, allowing me to catch up to the required progress. I scaled the wall in the backyard, successfully evading the patrol of miscellaneous servants. If I can successfully join the guard squad, I will be able to escape this impending tribulation. Although I have violated the regulations for miscellaneous servants, Lafang is a bully who preys on the weak, and being a coward who fears the strong, he will surely never dare to demand my return from the hands of Pang Long. At the main courtyard of the guard squad, the competition to select new guards was about to begin. Pang Long sat at the forefront, with a subordinate standing to his left and right. 3 candidates stood among the miscellaneous servants. Though they wore the standard servant garb, their tall, upright frames made them stand out like a crane among a flock of chickens. Pang Long swept his gaze across them, lingering on one man for a few seconds, thinking to himself that only this Tihao possessed any semblance of aura. As the hour approached, Pang Long asked the guard standing beside him, "Is there anyone else who has not arrived?" Before his words could fade, the sound of footsteps echoed through the air. I rushed into the courtyard, caught my breath for a moment, and said, "Commander Pang, I have arrived." You are not yet late. Join the ranks." Pang Long said indifferently, "Why have you come here as well? Who gave you permission to come?" Tahao had already recognized me. His eyes widened in utter astonishment. I narrowed my eyes slightly and replied, "I came of my own volition. Since you and I are competitors, I look forward to your guidance when the time comes." "You brat, you hid this well, so you knew about this as well?" Tihao seethed with inward rage, leaning in close to whisper, "Do you even deserve to be called my brother?" "Very well, to see you appear here, this is truly interesting. You have quite the audacity to dare and compete with me. Watch how I, your grandfather, play with you until you are finished." I could not be bothered to argue and tightened my hand into a fist. A true man must use his fist to settle matters. As the hour struck, Pang Long rose from his seat. "The recruitment for the guard squad begins now." The premise was simple. A martial arts arena had been erected in the courtyard. There was only one rule, and the time limit was the duration of a single incense stick. The person remaining on the arena stage at the end would become the new protector of the estate. As the voice fell silent, a servant quickly seized the stage, casting a wary gaze at those around him. Before long, another servant stepped onto the platform. Both were mere laborers. Their frames were not robust, and their builds were neither tall nor imposing. Their brawling was certainly nothing worth watching, yet they exuded a level of ruthlessness that was truly chilling to behold. Pang Long nodded to himself. For a servant to change his fate, he must rely on such desperation. I glanced at Pang Long, pondering the nature of the competition. A single incense stick's duration. Whoever could stand firm until the end would be the victor. In other words, there was no limit to the number of times one could challenge for the stage. Ultimately, my only true opponent was Bihao. Should I step onto the stage early and feign a complete lack of martial skill, intentionally misdirecting Bihao into underestimating me? Then I would pretend to be overwhelmed and be kicked off the stage, while using this opportunity to remain in the shadows and bide my time, waiting until the incense was nearly burnt out before mounting a final effort to seize that fleeting chance. As this thought crossed my mind, a match happened to conclude. I immediately walked straight onto the arena, facing a servant even thinner than myself. We wrestled with one another, completely devoid of any refined technique, much like street ruffians brawling. Both teeth and nails were put to use. Strikes to the lower abdomen, gouging at the opponent's eyes. Everything was fair game. Bihao stood with his arms crossed, looking thoroughly pleased, his eyes filled with contempt. How could this lot ever hope to contend with me? But the old man was right. These mad dogs, seeing their only chance to change their fortunes, were truly risking their lives. It is a pity they lack the wits to match their fervor. Below the stage, Bihao suppressed a laugh as I exerted all my strength to shove the servant I was grappling with away. I stood up panting heavily and let out a furious roar. Who is next? At my challenge, another servant rushed onto the stage, lunging toward me. Though I was feigning much of my performance, the reality was far from easy. Every one of us was a beast driven into a corner. In such a dire predicament, the strength a human can unleash is truly terrifying. The servant's fingernails were incredibly long, tearing through my arm. I cursed at him, "Get lost!" I then turned and used all my strength to kick the servant off the arena stage. Before long, another servant lunged forward, pinning me to the ground. This servant was skilled in grappling and attempted to apply a chokehold from behind. A ruthless glint flickered in my eyes as I reached out to gouge his eyes. Overcome with pain, the servant's strength faltered. Seizing the opportunity to counterattack, I exerted all my might and emerged victorious once more. This was because the head guard had told Fang Tianyu that while the boy possessed mere brute strength, if his internal foundation was solid, he would be selected as a guard. Lord Pang, that man Bihao possesses a martial foundation. Is this not far too unfair? Pang Longwen merely replied indifferently, "Rules are rules. I do not speak of fairness with servants," while I went on to win another match. In the next bout, Bihao stepped onto the stage. Bihao spoke with cold arrogance. "You worthless trash Wen Buni, let me show you my true strength. Go crawl back to the servant quarters and stay there." Without another word, he unleashed a fierce kick toward me. Although I could have evaded it, I deliberately pretended to be too slow, using the momentum to roll off the stage, a truly ruthless move. Feng Tianyu exclaimed in shock, "Bihao, this kick utilized hidden force to injure the internal organs. Given your weak constitution, you could have been killed by that blow." I was indeed in agonizing pain, but protected by my internal energy, I had not yet lost the ability to move. I lay sprawled on the ground, feigning exhaustion, yet my gaze remained unnervingly calm as I glanced at the incense stick in the distance. The play had been performed well enough. While recovering my stamina, I waited for the final moment. Bihao possessed a martial foundation and was far superior to the common servants. From the moment he stepped onto the stage, the battle became one-sided. Yet even so, the desperate tactics of his opponents still managed to wound him. As the incense stick burned down, Bihao stood tall and unyielding. Looking down at the arena, he saw the servants scattered and defeated and burst into laughter. "A bunch of mongrels, what qualifications do you have to compete with me? What right do you have to stand against me?" Pang Long glanced at the incense, sensing there would be no further surprises. The incense is about to burn out. If anyone still wishes to test their strength, seize this final opportunity. The selection trial for the guards was finally reaching its conclusion, and in the end, nothing had managed to surprise him. At this moment, I struggled to my feet and, without a word, stepped toward the arena once again. "A defeated dog like you still dares to step onto the stage?" Bihao grew unreasonably angry at my return. I rubbed my stomach and climbed onto the stage, appearing as if I were about to collapse. But deep within those eyes, a golden light had begun to converge. Pang Long raised an eyebrow, a flicker of admiration rising in his heart. "Begin at once. The incense is nearly spent. Only by seizing this final opportunity can victory be secured." His words were akin to pouring oil upon a raging fire. Tu Hao clenched his fists, with victory already within his grasp. He could no longer maintain his composure, yearning only to cast me from the stage immediately, so that he might stand upon the dais alone. Resolving to end this, he drew a sharp breath, charged forward, and unleashed a strike directly at my face. I raised my arms to defend, and with a sharp thud, Tu Hao's fist collided with my forearms. In that instant, I recognized the technique as the palm-blocking fist from the Three Talents Fist manual. While it appeared to be a straightforward attack aimed at the midsection, lacking any flashiness, the hidden force behind it was remarkably potent. Against an opponent lacking martial arts knowledge, this maneuver would have practically guaranteed him the win. Even though I had managed to block the blow, my arms burned with an incessant, sharp pain. It was only through sheer strength of will that I forced myself to endure. Though I had never formally practiced the Three Talents Fist, I had observed Tu Hao's movements from beneath the stage and had already deciphered his patterns. During the previous matches of the family tournament, the arrogant Tu Hao had become blinded by his own conceit, eager to flaunt his prowess to gain favor with Pang Long, and thus had deliberately performed his techniques with unnecessary flair. He had long since exposed all the nuances of his style, completely unaware that I had been silently committing them to memory. A moment later, I noticed the range of his strikes begin to widen. I rejoiced inwardly. The opportunity I had been waiting for had finally arrived. At that very second, I let out a low roar. the fury in my chest erupting as I unleashed the first technique of the Savage Bull Fist. The Mad Bull Gores, a strike executed with the fluidity of flowing water. Having freezed my energy for so long, the force behind the strike felt as though a frenzied bull were charging, thrusting its sharpened horns directly toward its target. Terror flashed across Tu Hao's face as he scrambled to shift from offense to defense. Although this blow did not defeat Tu Hao, it utterly shattered his formation. I focused my intent. The Azure Bull wags its tail, pivoting my body to swing my fist, channeling the torque from my waist and abdomen to amplify the power of the strike. Though it was a punching technique, it lacked none of the finesse of a whip. Every one of the thousands of punches I had thrown in the past had been for the sake of this singular moment. A surge of warmth radiated from my dantian, and the force thwack! The punch landed squarely on Ti Hao's shoulder, nearly shattering his joint entirely. Faintly I heard the crunch of snapping bone, but it was not Ti Hao's, it was mine. As a mere handyman, barely fed or clothed, my constitution was already frail. My bones were brittle at best. I suppressed the searing pain. I didn't utter a word, yet Ti Hao let out a wretched scream. The agony was so immense he instinctively retreated to create distance, making it appear as though it were his own bones that had fractured. I only knew 3 moves. This technique relies on striking when the opponent least expects it. It must be a decisive blow or it is utterly useless. In that very instant, I reached out with my left hand and executed the pulling the weed technique. There was naturally no grass to pull on this arena, but my target was Ti Hao's hair. I gripped his hair tightly and unleashed the third move. The bull raises its head, following through with a strike directly to his face. As the punch connected, Ti Hao's facial features were crushed inward. A patch of hair was torn out by the root from the crown of his head. Fresh blood seeped out, and as a final measure I delivered a kick, sending him flying off the arena just as the final incense stick burned to completion. Everything had been calculated with precision. I did not need to win every time. I only needed to win the most important match. Ti Hao clutched his head, his palm coming away slick with blood. The pain forced him to gasp repeatedly as he incessantly cursed the bastard. "Damn it all, I will kill you!" Ti Hao rolled up his sleeves, intending to climb back onto the stage. He had finally realized the truth. This brat's martial arts were incomplete. Otherwise, he would have seized the opportunity to kill him rather than merely kicking him off the stage. Ti Hao's expression was murderous, his heart filled with overwhelming rage. "The match has concluded," Pang Long stated with indifference. Ti Hao froze, only then returning to his senses. He glanced at the incense stick nearby. The incense had burned out, and the smoke had already dissipated. His heart skipped a beat. He was enraged to the point of madness, suddenly unsure of his surroundings or what he ought to do. Lost in confusion, he realized, I have lost. In the tournament to select the manor guards, I have been defeated by a lowly baseborn animal. The reality gradually took hold, a buzzing sound filled his head, yet a flicker of hope remained in his heart. Even though I have fallen the arena, my martial cultivation is clearly a tier above his, not something that pathetic creature could ever compare to. Perhaps I might still earn the respect of Commander Pang. If I struggle and contend for it, there must surely still be a chance. Gathering his courage, he spoke, "Commander Pang, the regulations state that the loser must die, but I still live. My martial arts are superior to his, as everyone here has witnessed. The purpose of this tournament is to select candidates with formidable combat prowess. Would it be possible to allow Brother Li and me to spar once more?" As the words left his lips, Pang Long waved his hand, his patience wearing thin. "The competition has concluded. Li Xian is the victor." As the loser retreated to the servants' quarters, Bihao gnashed his teeth, his heart consumed by overwhelming indignation. "Commander Pang, I do not accept this outcome. It is unjust. I implore the commander to weigh this matter fairly." Pang Long cast a cold glance his way, yet he did not utter a single word. Bihao suddenly came to his senses and recoiled. As Pang Long remarked, "Indeed, the boy is lost. It is ruined. Everything is ruined. I had prepared myself so thoroughly, yet in the end I still lost. Someone as lowly as him, yet he insists on contending with me. Would it not have been better for him to remain an obedient servant? Damn it all. If Elder Luo discovers this, how am I to explain myself?" Bihao stood in a daze, his spirit shattered. He felt as though he were in a nightmare, unable to accept the reality before him. I stepped toward him, cupped my hands, and said, "Brother B, thank you for looking after me in the servants' quarters." "Bihao, you wretched cur." He prepared to unleash a torrent of abuse, but he was met with my calm, smiling expression. I was now a guard. Technically, beast was a label that should have been coming from my lips, not his. One must remember that his uncle, Luo Feng, only attained the position of supervisor because he had once served as a guard. Becoming a guard grants one the opportunity to encounter the rudimentary martial arts taught by the lady of the house. For a commoner, gaining even a glimmer of such knowledge is an immense benefit. Luo Feng was a testament to this. With our positions reversed, the change in status made Bihao even more resentful. He felt as though all of this had rightfully belonged to him. "Brother Li, congratulations." Bihao's smile was more unsightly than tears. I had intended to lash out at Bihao, to curse him as a beast to vent the pent-up anger in my heart, but upon reflection the word beast was best left unspoken. The one being insulted would certainly feel bitter, yet the one delivering the insult by the very act inadvertently admits that his own character is just as lowly, implying that merely by possessing higher status one is entitled to view those below them as mere animals. Thus, the very person hurling the insults only served to validate that base label for themselves. In the future, when facing those of higher status, they would instinctively lower themselves, placing their own standing on the level of beasts. After all, they had treated their own subordinates with that same disdain. I can abide by the laws of this world and climb to the top step by step, but I refused to be assimilated into the likes of Bihao. Upon hearing the words congratulations, Bihao felt a sharp, piercing pain in his heart. The power of such a remark was far more damaging and wounding than any vile language. Tat Hao gritted his teeth and replied, "Congratulations, truly congratulations." He clutched his chest in anger, choked by his own fury, unable to utter another word. In the distance, Pang Long nodded to himself, noting the boy's composure, successful but not arrogant, patient but not weak. "This young man is quite interesting. You are the newcomer who followed me here." Li Shen from Luoping Alley, Qingming County. Pang Long walked ahead, recalling the information regarding my background. "Yes," I replied with a nod. My footsteps were light, producing not a single unnecessary sound. Pang Long gave a subtle nod of approval. "You have passed the selection for the guards. From this day forward, you are no longer a servant but a formal guard of the estate. However, there is one thing I must remind you of. The compensation and benefits of our guards are superior to those of the servants, but ultimately we are still subordinates of the estate. You must remain loyal to your duties and refrain from arrogance or pride. Can you manage this?" With my lips, I answered that of course I could do so, but in my heart I thought, these rules are indeed sound, yet the hearts of men are complex, and the number of those who can truly refrain from arrogance is increasingly rare. "The duel just now must have left you hungry. I will take you to the dining hall in the guard quarters first, and then I will explain the rules to you." Pang Long's tone was gentle, revealing a clear interest in me. During the earlier sparring match on the arena, I had deliberately concealed my true ability, letting my opponent underestimate me before seizing victory at the final moment. From the start, even he had been deceived, believing me to be nothing more than a servant possessing only brute strength and ruthlessness. This lad has no small amount of tactical depth. Before we had walked far, we reached another building. On the plaque, it read Dining Pavilion. This building was designated for the guards, and consequently, upon sitting down, Pang Long gestured lightly, ordering 2 portions of the house special. Moments later, 2 plates of rice and side dishes were brought to the table. My mouth watered at the sight. 3 bowls of broth, 1 meat dish, and 2 vegetable dishes. The meat dish was braised pork, specifically pork belly with the perfect ratio of fat to lean meat. The 2 vegetable dishes were blanched bean sprouts and shredded stir-fried radish. While not visually striking, they were seasoned with just the right amount of oil and salt, glistening with a savory sheen and emanating a rich aroma. Though it could hardly be called a feast in these times, being able to enjoy a meal such as this was a true privilege. "Eat," he urged. "This is the standard ration for a house guard." To put it simply, a house guard is one who protects the residents of a prominent estate. Without some martial foundation, one could hardly hold such a position. Since you have joined as a guard, you are spared from menial labor, but you must commit yourself to the martial path. As for one's sustenance, it must never be taken lightly. Pang Long took up his wooden chopsticks, poured the rice, meat, and vegetables into the broth, mixed them thoroughly, and finished it with a single, vigorous slurp from the edge of the bowl. Broth, rice, greens, and meat, everything was consumed with remarkable speed. Before I could even take a bite, I began to press him about the path of martial cultivation. Pang Long did not answer, instead polishing off the entire bowl of rice in one go. His manner of eating was truly unique, consuming his meal as one would drink water, with the ferocity of a gale yet possessing a subtle, refined elegance. Having finished the first bowl, leaving it as spotless as if it had just been washed, he finally replied, "Every newcomer is fascinated by martial arts. I have no obligation to resolve your doubts regarding the martial Dao, but seeing as you are still green and newly arrived, I will permit you to ask me 3 questions pertaining to it." My eyes brightened and I thought to myself that since Pang Long had invited me to speak freely, I need not stand on ceremony. I asked, "Can martial cultivation truly extend one's lifespan and lead to immortality?" My own circumstances were dire. How could I dare hope for immortality? I asked this only to grasp the general nature of this world's martial path. Pang Long paused, then answered, "Naturally, it is possible." However, he did not explain further, choosing instead to observe my expression. Seeing that there was no trace of fanatical excitement on my face, he was satisfied that I was not a man prone to delusional daydreams, but rather one driven by simple curiosity. I pondered for a moment. In this place, could I truly find a path forward? Pang Long's gaze grew complex. This time he gave neither a simple yes nor no, replying instead, "It is harder than ascending to the heavens. You have only 1 question remaining." After asking my 2 questions, I already possessed a rough outline of the martial Tao in this world. I let my imagination run wild, recalling countless stories and books I had read in my past life. They all shared one commonality, increasing one's personal strength by absorbing a specific type of energy present in the air. Could this world be the same? Thus, I asked whether the so-called martial Tao involved sensing and harnessing an invisible power within the atmosphere. Pang Long looked at me with a strange expression, remarking that he did not know where such thoughts originated, but he could answer me clearly. "Your line of thought is far too fanciful. Air is merely air. How could there possibly be any mystical power within it?" He nearly laughed aloud after speaking. This boy was truly interesting, with thoughts that were quite unconventional and wild. Having asked those 3 questions regarding the martial Tao, I had gained a general understanding. After thanking Pang Long, the hunger in my stomach surged, and I began to eat ravenously. As the fatty meat entered my stomach, the feeling of fullness granted me renewed strength. In just a few bites, I had cleared the entire meal. It was a rare, satiating feast, and my mood lifted accordingly. After departing from the Shizai Lu, Pang Long suddenly heard a spiritual summons. The madam was calling for him. He dared not delay and had to meet her personally, but leaving me here alone was not a viable solution. Just then, a guard approached from the opposite direction, and he called out, "Zhao Han, I am leaving this new kid in your care. Show him around and help him get acquainted." Having said that, he hurried away. The guard named Zhao Han possessed a gentle smile. He did not look down upon me despite my status as a mere servant. Seeing my tattered clothes and disheveled appearance, he said, "Commander Pang instructed me to look after you, so naturally I must take proper care of you. Follow me quickly. I will take you to a washroom to clean up and change into new attire." The material of the guard's uniform was quite durable, incomparable to the rags worn by servants. You will no longer need that old outfit. Once you take it off, feel free to discard it. Arriving at the guard's communal bathhouse, I stripped off my clothes, hoisted a wooden bucket, and poured the water over myself. The cold water instantly drenched me. Winter had arrived, and while the snow had yet to fall, the air was already biting. Yet the chill soon began to dissipate, and a wave of warmth spread throughout my body, invigorating my spirit. I endured the cold, scrubbed the grime from my skin, and smoothed out my tangled long hair. After 7 buckets of water, my skin was flushed red from the cold, but my body was finally clean, and I donned the guard's uniform. The kind-hearted youth Zhao Han gazed at me with bright eyes and applauded, remarking that fine feathers make fine birds. In merely half an hour, the unkempt servant had been transformed into a handsome young man. "Brother Li, you are actually quite dashing. This is what a proper guard should look like. Come, come, I will take you for a tour and explain the rules of our guardhouse." Zhao Han draped his arm over my shoulder as we walked outside. Our servant quarters are divided into 4 ranks, strictly categorized as Jia, Yi, Bing, and Ding. You have just joined as a servant, so you are at the Ding rank, while I am at the Bing rank. The higher the rank, the better the monthly salary and benefits. While they were speaking, the two of them arrived in front of a row of houses. "This is where we reside." Zhao Han stopped, casting his gaze into the distance. The buildings here were arranged in neat, orderly rows, aligned both horizontally and vertically, with crimson bricks and azure roof tiles. The style was reminiscent of military barracks. Each room could accommodate 4 people. This place actually looks like a dwelling fit for human beings. I could not help but sigh, lamenting internally that this was, after all, merely a residence for servants. The room was a square zhang in size, cramped and stifling with 4 beds squeezed inside. Each dwelling had its own identification number marked on a plaque above the door. "Brother Li, why don't you stay with me? We happen to have 1 empty spot available." Zhao Han said with a smile. "Good, I couldn't ask for better." I laughed heartily and walked toward room number 113. Zhao Han pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Haha, let me introduce you to everyone so you can get acquainted." As the door opened, there were 2 people inside, thin and one stout, named Wang Chun and Zhuo Yili respectively. Zhao Han introduced the 2 parties to one another. Once names were exchanged, he spoke up. "Brother Li, among us, you are the youngest. We shall call you the 4th brother. Wang Chun at 21 years old is the 2nd brother, and Zhuo Yili at 19 is the 3rd brother." Zhao Han patted everyone on the shoulder and said, "4th brother, from this day forward, we are all in the same boat. We must look out for one another. If you have any questions in the future, do not hesitate to ask us." Night fell. Following the orientation provided by Zhao Han during the day, I had grasped the basic rules of the servant quarters. I lay on my bed with a complex state of mind, unable to decide whether to be happy or sorrowful. On one hand, I deeply realized that there are tiers to humanity, with people categorized as superior or inferior. On the other hand, I was glad that my circumstances had improved. Zhao Han turned over and, seeing me blankly staring at the ceiling, said, "4th brother." I offered a brief nod of acknowledgement before closing my eyes to sleep. One morning, hundreds of guards gathered in the open courtyard before the main estate. Pang Long stood at the front, and once the roll call was completed, he spoke calmly. "This morning's training begins with 3 laps around the manor. Give me your best effort, everyone. Warm up your muscles and tendons. On the path of martial cultivation, there are no shortcuts. The most dangerous thing is to indulge in idle daydreams. If you can master even the most basic techniques, you can consider yourselves to have a future." As soon as Pang Long's voice faded, the morning training commenced. I merged with the crowd, heading out through the manor gates to begin the laps. The pace transitioned from a steady jog to a rapid sprint. This estate was far more expansive than I had imagined, surrounded by towering mountains and vast rivers. Running around the perimeter required navigating several winding mountain paths. Suddenly, the proficiency of the running skill reached 12500. The beginning of any path is merely lifting one's feet and swinging one's arms. It strengthens the body and builds vitality. Why would I hesitate to do so? With every step I took, the fruits of my exertion spread to my arms. My breathing became increasingly rhythmic, and my speed surged involuntarily. By the time I finished the 3 laps, the sky had fully brightened. The proficiency of my running skill had reached 251. "4th brother, your stamina is truly impressive. Running like this and you are still not exhausted?" Zhao Han gasped for air, his expression filled with slight astonishment. Running 3 laps around these grounds, traversing mountains and rivers, is no simple feat. Moreover, the pace of the formation was not slow. To be able to keep up with the main group, you are already quite capable. "I am still fine," I replied, wiping the sweat from my forehead. "I cannot say I am not weary, but I am holding steady." "Conserve some strength. Commander Pang will likely call you forward shortly to impart a martial technique to you." Zhao Han whispered a reminder and gestured toward Pang Long. Indeed, Pang Long's gaze swept over the guards, and when his eyes landed on me, he was visibly taken aback. To think there could be such a change in just half a day. I never expected that the insignificant servant from before would now look so refined. If he were not the only new face among the guards, I truly would not have recognized him. Xian, come here. Pang Long beckoned and I hurried forward. Pang Long stood with his hands behind his back and said, I was occupied with urgent matters yesterday and was unable to pass on a martial technique to you. Before I impart these martial arts to you, there is one matter I must solemnly convey. The martial techniques we practice were all created by the matriarch. In mastering this art, the matriarch must be held above all else. You must never defy her will. Should you disobey, your fate shall mirror that of this bamboo stalk. With those words, he unleashed a palm strike at a bamboo stalk in the distance. A sharp crack echoed as the bamboo was severed in two. My eyes widened in shock. That display of strength was truly formidable. Yet when I asked him yesterday if there were any leads within a 10-mile radius, he replied that it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This signifies that the clues within the manor lie with the manor matriarch, and even Pang Long cannot reach them. That is the origin of his exclamation regarding the difficulty of ascending to the heavens. In other words, while his physical prowess is impressive, in the eyes of a true grandmaster, he has yet to reach the threshold of the path. These thoughts flashed through my mind in an instant. Have you committed this to memory? Pang Long asked with an indifferent tone. I have. I nodded. Until I possess sufficient strength, I must abide by their rules. Very good. I see you possess a foundation in fist techniques, so I shall impart one to you. You must study it with total focus. Under no circumstances are you to be slothful. Do not assume that becoming a manor guard entitles you to rest on your laurels. According to the manor's rules, if you do not prove suitable for my faction within 15 days, I will expel you from the guard and reduce you back to a servant. Pang Long warned in a grave tone. I cupped my hands and replied, I will certainly not fail to meet Commander Pang's expectations. Pang Long's expression softened. Watch closely. With that, he leaped into the air, diving into the center of the training grounds. After moving through a series of motions, he launched a punch. What appeared to be a feint was in truth brimming with lethal intent. He struck 17 times in rapid succession, sweeping with his legs in all directions, striking east and west with every movement perfectly coordinated. Pang Long ceased his movements and stood straight. I know you yearn to reach that realm, but from this day forward you need not indulge in such fanciful dreams. Focus your efforts on mastering these techniques. The internal force contained within is more than enough to last a lifetime. Technique is a means to confront an enemy, but internal force is the root of a martial artist. These two are the foundation of any martial path, though without 10 or 20 years of discipline, one can hardly hope to achieve anything of note. For now, I shall not demand that of you. You need only master the incantations and movements of this four directions fist within these 15 days. I memorized it thoroughly, grasping every essential point. I nodded. Regardless of the circumstances, the opportunity to study martial arts was always a boon. Furthermore, Pang Long had offered me a subtle warning. When he spoke of the four directions, he emphasized the words intentionally, surely to remind me not to be foolish enough to underestimate such teachings. These seemingly ordinary techniques were in truth of vital importance. Pang Long tossed the manual for the four directions fist to me, turned toward the crowd and called out, Luo Tongwu, you possess a unique understanding of the four directions fist. I entrust the task of teaching him this technique to you. Luo Tongwu offered me a gentle smile and replied, Rest assured, Commander Pang, I shall spare no effort in his instruction. Brother Li, the four directions fist emphasizes the square within the circle. Though it may appear rigid, it actually conceals great fluidity. I shall demonstrate it once, observe my footwork closely, and commit it to memory. Luo Tongwu smiled, and before me, he executed the complete sequence of the four directions fist. I mimicked his actions, attempting to replicate his footwork and strikes to the best of my ability. Practicing a complete martial art for the first time felt somewhat awkward, but after repeating the movements, I began to grasp the secret essence. Not bad, Brother Li. You possess remarkable insight. Keep practicing and mastering this form will not be difficult. Luo Tongwu nodded, and in the blink of an eye it was midday. Luo Tongwu said, Brother Li, you may continue your practice on your own. I must attend to my patrols this afternoon. I shall continue your instruction tomorrow. Understood. My deepest gratitude for your guidance, Brother Luo. My heart was filled with appreciation. After Luo Tongwu departed, I continued to practice the technique repeatedly. In the past, I had to practice in secret. Now that I could do so openly, I naturally cherished the opportunity. To me, even the monotony of this rigorous training held a charm of its own. With every strike, I cross-referenced my movements with the manual. Not until I felt my technique had become proficient did I set the manual acid, striking out with newfound fluidity. Half an hour later, my punches grew steady, and I had successfully mastered the breathing techniques of the four directions fist. Proficiency in four directions fist, 13,500. At the introductory level, this basic martial art appeared honest and straightforward, yet it was actually cunning and subtle. While easy to grasp, it was exceptionally difficult to master. Being a martial guard meant labor. We were, after all, servants. It was not as though one could simply eat, sleep, and train all day. The lower the rank of the guard, the more labor-intensive their duties. Mundane tasks were plentiful. Those of higher rank enjoyed more leisure. But as I was a newcomer, I only needed to focus on my training for these first 15 days. After 15 days, I would have to begin reporting for duty. When patrol was required, I would have to patrol. Both trivial and significant matters would descend upon me. By then, the luxury of such uninterrupted training would be a thing of the past. The other guards had already left for their patrols, leaving me alone to continue my practice. With each punch thrown, sweat flew several yards, and the momentum of my strikes was being forged in this very place. A martial artist cultivates techniques and internal force. Achieving excellence in both is enough to be considered a master among the common folk. For the moment, I did not entertain thoughts focused solely on refining one's martial path at hand. Once a clear objective is set within the heart, everything begins to hold a glimmer of hope. Elsewhere, Luo Tongyun was patrolling when he was suddenly intercepted by the chores manager, Luo Feng. Luo Feng smiled and said, "Brother Luo Tong, it has been a long time. Would you be willing to step inside and sit for a while?" Luo Tongyun frowned and replied, "Is there something you cannot say out here? Please, come in." Luo Feng pushed open the door and bowed to invite him in, offering no further explanation. Luo Tongyun nodded with a smile. If there was a favor to be asked, there would surely be a reward. How could he possibly refuse? After they sat down, Luo Feng poured a cup of tea and remarked, "You and I know each other well enough. I will not dance around the subject. 5 taels of silver to send Li Xian back to the chores department." Luo Tongyun replied indifferently that Li Xian is being watched by Master Pang. He is not easily touched. Ha. Luo Feng laughed, "But for you it is quite simple. Master Tang has ordered you to teach him the 4 directions fist. You only need to use some tricks within the technique, causing him to perform poorly in 15 days, and the matter will naturally be resolved." Luo Tongyun merely sipped his tea, remaining silent. 10 taels of silver? Luo Feng's expression darkened as he suppressed his anger, realizing these 10 taels seemed not to be enough. Luo Feng feared that if Li Xian rose to power in the future, it would threaten his own position. Deal. Luo Tongyun narrowed his eyes and laughed, thinking, with just a few words, he has already betrayed me. The morning training session concluded. Filled with questions, I immediately went to seek out Luo Tongyun for answers. Luo Tongyun was as smiling as he had been the day before. "Little brother Li, demonstrate the technique once before me, and I will show you how to improve your form." I nodded. Assuming my stance, I executed the set, thinking to myself that I had been practicing with diligence. Though I could not claim rapid progress at the very least, it was performed with standard precision. Unexpectedly, Luo Tongyun shook his head repeatedly. "Slow, truly far too slow. Little brother Li, your martial aptitude is quite mediocre indeed." "Is that so?" I felt a sense of doubt, as this did not seem to be what was said yesterday. "Alas, at this rate, I fear that in 15 days, you will struggle to pass the test set by Commander Pang." Luo Tongyun spoke with an air of concern, yet suspicion stirred within me. Were his words genuine or merely a facade? I had not been idle yesterday, and my proficiency was increasing steadily. Was it truly as poor as he claimed? He shook his head and sighed. "Very well. I shall instruct you. Practice according to this secret method henceforth, and I guarantee you will satisfy Commander Pang." So saying, he demonstrated a boxing technique right before my eyes, and I practiced it once. My proficiency level surged dramatically. It was rare to see a training manual so fundamentally flawed. This Luo Tongyun intended to harm me. I scrutinized him closely. Everything was now clear. Luo Tongyun's smile remained gentle, his expression one of complete sincerity. "Little brother Li, have you understood? Continue to practice using this method, and should you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me." "Very well, go about your tasks," I decided, choosing not to alert the enemy prematurely. Feigning agreement, I waited until Luo Tongyun had departed. Then I immediately reverted to the original boxing style, throwing punch after punch, increasing my proficiency and tempering my physical body. The proficiency of the 4 directions fist reached 187,500, entering the introductory stage. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. That day, during the Hour of the Dragon, everyone else had sat down to rest. I alone continued to practice my fist techniques incessantly against the wooden post. Zhao Han and the others relaxed nearby, chatting and joking with great fervor. Seeing me training with such intensity, they did not disturb me and quietly took their leave. I acted as if I heard nothing. I threw a heavy punch. In that very moment, the essence contained within the boxing technique shifted, shaking the heavens and earth. My entire body trembled, and a flash of light appeared before my eyes. The proficiency of the 4 directions fist reached the level of mastery where strength and flexibility combine. Strength can suppress the 8 directions, while flexibility can shift the heavens and move the earth. Through your bitter practice of the boxing arts, you have achieved a breakthrough. Simultaneously, I grasped the inner meaning. The trait of hearing in all 8 directions. As long as I focus my attention, my hearing is greatly amplified, allowing me to perceive movements based on the sound of the wind. I could easily discern an opponent's patterns. I was both astonished and overjoyed. Truly, heaven does not disappoint those who strive. Diligent practice will always yield a harvest. 4 days had passed in a flash, and following the morning training session, I sought out a secluded spot as usual to refine my techniques. I had just assumed the stance of the 4 directions fist when I saw Zhao Han and Wang Chun approaching. I withdrew my stance and asked curiously, "Boss, what has made you so happy today? Could there be some joyful event today?" "Slouchy, what about today?" "It is the day we receive our monthly wages." Zhao Han laughed and said, "Ah, so that is it," as I calculated the time in my head. "But I have not even been in the manor for a full month. Do I also receive payment today?" Of course, forget about the training for now. Let's go collect our pay." Zhao Han threw his arm around my shoulder, practically dragging me along. And so, the four of us from the Hu Do Yi martial dormitory headed toward the accounting office together. Outside the accounting room, a long line had formed, and we waited for half an hour before it was our turn. Li Xianyuan, formerly a handyman with a monthly wage of 50 wen, is now a 4th-grade guard entitled to 150 wen. Having performed well during his time as a handyman, he received a bonus of 37 wen, bringing his total stipend for this month to 87 wen. The treasurer could not help but glance at him a few more times. To rise from a handyman to a guard is a truly rare occurrence. He had developed a bit of an impression of this young man. Like a scholar who signed a contract of indenture in late autumn, his penmanship was not bad. After collecting our stipends, Wei Shi, myself, Zhao Han, and Wang Chun, the four of us were not scheduled for patrols, a rare occasion for us to be gathered together. I then voiced the doubt in my heart. Even with these stipends, where would one spend money while staying in the manor? One can go to the elixir hall to trade for medicinal pills. The benefit of a single medicinal pill is worth several days of eating and drinking. You must understand that the most important aspect of martial arts is not merely training, but nourishment. Only with proper nutrition can one's physique and stamina keep up, allowing one to reach higher attainments in martial arts. Zhao Han laughed upon hearing this naturally. One could also consider taking a stroll in the nearby Qingning County. There are plenty of places to spend money there, as long as one returns on time. My heart stirred, and I asked, how does one go about requesting leave? Just go and inform the gang commander, and that will suffice. What is it? Does Lao Si wish to go out and see the world? Zhao Han nudged me with his elbow. Younger brother, you have been practicing martial arts for too long. You should find someone to vent your pent-up energy, otherwise you will ruin yourself. Ha ha. Zhao Han spoke with a joyous expression. Wang Chun and Wei Shi also chimed in. After receiving our bonuses, we all looked. I merely smiled, but deep down I had no intention of venting my anger. Rather, it was simply that I had not seen my younger brother in a long time. With the examinations approaching, he should not overexert himself. Zhao Han, being familiar with the routine, had everything settled in no time. The four of us exited the manor gates, following the mountain path toward Qingning County. Walking shoulder to shoulder, the four of us chatted about everything under the sun, the atmosphere remarkably harmonious. As we passed a narrow alleyway, I spoke up. Big brother, second brother, third brother, you go ahead. I will not be joining you to the brothel. My younger brother is at home alone, and since it is a rare occasion for me to be out, I must pay him a visit. Very well. Zhao Han waved his hand, saying nothing more. It was now midday. Thinking of my younger brother, I involuntarily quickened my pace. My brother had been sensible, bright, and pure of heart since childhood, ever since our father took his own life. As the eldest brother, I have shouldered the responsibility of caring for him. The bond between brothers is deeper than anything else. Arriving before a dilapidated thatched cottage, I called out in a loud voice, "Brother! Brother!" After my third call, a joyous voice echoed from within the house. "Brother, is that you?" A small thin figure rushed out. He was wearing the tattered linen clothes left behind by our father. His small frame could barely support the oversized garments, and though his hair was disheveled, his eyes shone with brilliance. The moment Li Xiaofan saw me, his eye sockets brimmed with tears. I ran forward and embraced my brother tightly. He is still so young, yet left alone in this thatched hut during these man-eating chaotic times. I had feared his clothes might be stolen, his copper coins pilfered, or that he would be bullied by others. Returning now to find him safe and sound, I could finally set my heart at ease. Safe and sound, it is truly good, truly wonderful. During this half-day, I shared a meal of fatty pork with Li Xiaofan. Thinking that winter had arrived, and seeing that the room lacked both bedding and proper shelter from the wind, I purchased a thick cotton-padded jacket for him. In these difficult times, wearing new clothes would surely invite unwanted attention. I instructed my brother to wear the new jacket underneath, layering our father's old linen robe over it, and warned him to avoid wandering into unfamiliar places. Once these matters were attended to, I went to visit Aunt Lu next door. I gave her 30 copper coins, asking her to keep an eye on my brother during these days. "Brother, are you leaving again?" Li Xiaofan's eyes welled up, knowing well that his brother could not stay for long. I handed my entire monthly salary to Li Xiaofan. "This is 80 coins. Remember well, you must use it to buy meat to eat." Buy meat to eat. Hearing these words, Li Xiaofan clenched his fists tightly. "Very well, the hour is growing late. Return home quickly." I waved my hand, turned and strode away. My silhouette rounded the corner of the alley and vanished completely. Li Xiaofan followed for a few paces, his gaze suddenly darkening before he returned to the dilapidated thatched cottage. The house was desolate, with only 4 bare walls and a rickety wooden bed. He sprawled across the bed, pulled out a tattered book, and focused his mind on reading. Only through study could he find a path to escape his fate. At that moment, on a mountain path 3 miles away, 4 men were walking together, their conversation drifting through the air. Zhao Han and his companions were gossiping about their flirtatious escapades at the brothel, of beauties held in their arms, their breath fragrant like orchids, and the alluring scent that still lingered upon them. It was a pity that the wages of a low-ranking laborer were so meager and their authority so limited. Even with a day of leave, they were forbidden from spending the night outside the manor. Seeing that dusk had fallen, they returned to the manor together. Commander Pang. As they approached the manor gate, Zhao Han, still somewhat intoxicated, caught sight of Pang Long. His drunken haze vanished instantly, and he hurriedly stepped forward to offer his respects. Pang Long cast a cold glance at the 4 men. "Did you pool your money for a day's leave just to squander it at a brothel?" "Yes, sir." Zhao Han scratched his head. As long as you do not violate the manners regulations, where you go is none of my concern. I have no right to question you. Pang Long spoke coldly, then his gaze rested upon me. He furrowed his brows, sighed, and shook his head, his expression betraying clear disappointment. You are still in your probationary period. They may indulge in debauchery because they have already been accepted as permanent staff, but you are merely a novice guard. Instead of seizing this time to refine the Four Directions fist technique, you waste your energy like this. You truly disappoint me. Commander Pang, you have misunderstood. I smiled, preparing to explain, but Pang Long waved his hand. No need for further words. Martial arts does not lie. When the examination arrives, I shall attend in person to witness your progress. If you do not meet my standards and fail to master this martial art, then return to being a laborer. Having said that, he turned around and strode away. I watched Pang Long's retreating figure, and upon hearing that tone of disappointment, my heart remained remarkably calm. To receive recognition is certainly desirable, but one must possess strength of one's own to forge true iron. Instead of exhausting my efforts seeking the approval of others, it is far better to persevere steadfastly upon my own path. Time slipped away, and the day of the examination arrived. At early morning, I was performing my daily practice in the courtyard as usual. I stood in a secluded corner, feet spread wide, executing my punches in steady succession. I felt myself making constant progress. When striking, I no longer needed to recall the forms from the manual, for as soon as my mind stirred, the wind of my fist was already unleashed. In the parlance of martial arts, this signifies reaching the realm of transcendence, where one breaks free from the limitations of the manual and begins to develop personal insights. My fist technique had now begun to manifest a style uniquely my own. I felt a surge of warmth within my dantian. My inner energy had gathered to the size of a fist. With a single thought, I channeled my inner energy into my strike, and as I lashed out, the resulting gale of force produced a series of sharp, rhythmic cracks in the air. I was still immersed in the fruit of my labor when Commander Pang arrived. Suddenly, hearing a stir among the crowd, I turned to look. Pang Long was striding into the courtyard. Xian, today is the day of your examination. I believe there is no need for me to say anything further. Commander Pang, your subordinate understands. I nodded firmly. Luo Tongyun sighed at that moment, revealing a look of regret. Luo Tongyun, since Xian was trained by you, this examination shall naturally be conducted by you. Pang Long spoke indifferently. Do not show any partiality. If you do, even you will be punished. Follow the regulations strictly. Brother Li, you heard him. Luo Tongyun shrugged helplessly and took a step forward. Brother Luo, please enlighten me. I cupped my hands, stepped forward, and prepared to strike without holding anything back. If I accidentally cause you injury, please forgive me. Luo Tongyun returned the salute perfunctorily, keeping his left hand behind his back. If you can withstand more than 100 moves from me, then you may consider yourself to have grasped the profound mysteries of this technique. He turned his head to look at Pang Long, seeking his opinion. Commander Pang, do you find this arrangement acceptable? Pang Long nodded, signaling his consent. Martial arts cannot be feigned. Once a strike is launched, the truth is laid bare. I will say no more. The limit is set at 100 moves. Latong, my nephew, make your move. Latong puffed out his chest, head held high, full of confidence and composure before gesturing for me to approach with a wave of his hand. Seeing this, I stepped forward and launched a straight punch toward his face. The strike appeared entirely unremarkable, lacking any visible form or technique. He clearly believed I had learned nothing. Latong sneered, flicking his right hand lightly, intending to parry the strike with ease to demonstrate his superior strength. Just as the fist and palm were about to collide, I pivoted on my toes, shifting my entire body with a subtle motion. This slight adjustment in stance caused the trajectory of my fist to suddenly deviate. What was meant to be a strike to the face transformed into a downward blow toward his lower abdomen. This is the essence of the feint east, strike west tactic found within the Four Directions fist. Fist techniques are inherently direct, making it easy to distinguish between feints and genuine strikes, especially in basic forms. The path of the fist is limited to a few movements. Once memorized, reaching the introductory level is not difficult. Yet, once a punch is thrown, the force gathers at the point of impact, and one is usually committed to following through. Only true martial arts masters can retract their power at will, pulling back a strike to shift techniques mid-flow. The core essence of the Four Directions fist lies in its linear path. Yet one can utilize subtle body movements to redirect each strike at an angle, achieving the objective of striking where the enemy least expects. When novice martial artists engage in combat, this maneuver is incredibly unexpected and highly effective, especially since I had already seized the initiative, executing not only a feint but also capitalizing on the opponent's moment of vulnerability. This maneuver of mine has never failed. Latong was so startled by the precision of the strike that a chill ran down his spine. This simple punch not only proved I had mastered the basics of the technique, but also showed that my level of proficiency was nearly on par with his own. He hastily pulled his other hand over to block, but due to his initial arrogance, it was already too late. A sharp smack echoed, leaving his palm numb and swollen. Latong cursed inwardly, thinking that this brat held nothing back and had clearly struck with his full force. Forced back 3 or 4 steps, his face flushed with a mix of humiliation and anger. Taking a deep breath, he feigned magnanimity and offered a forced compliment. It was not in vain that I instructed you in this feint to the east, strike to the west strategy. You have finally grasped the crux of it. I let out a cold laugh, and while Latong Duan was still speaking, I sprang into action, unleashing 3 consecutive strikes toward him. Every single blow was a lethal strike. He only had himself to blame. Latong Duan was far too arrogant. He always carried himself as a superior, assuming he was merely offering me guidance, and still wanted to open his mouth to salvage a shred of his dignity. Little did he know, I am a man who repays every slight, and a debt of vengeance must be collected in full. I truly intended to seize this opportunity to beat him black and blue, refusing to waste a single second. Every punch was delivered with my full strength, all aimed directly at his vitals. Realizing that something was amiss, Latong Duan retreated repeatedly, his expression turning truly unsightly. At this point, he no longer wished to hold back, but having already lost the initiative, finding an opening to counterattack amidst my relentless, storm-like assault was proving to be no easy task. In martial arts duels, where life and death are decided in an instant, one's level of cultivation is merely one determining factor. For martial artists like myself, what truly decides the outcome is the ability to adapt on the fly and seize the initiative. I pushed the act of seizing the initiative to its absolute limit. While my momentum was at its peak, I unleashed the fist quelling the four directions. This technique was a treacherous move, even more devious than the feint to the east, strike to the west, because this technique relies on deceiving even the one who executes it. Although this fist quelling the four directions contains the word fist in its name, it is in reality a kick. To hide a kicking technique within a palm and fist style, if you fail to comprehend the essence, you will train it as a mere punching technique and never be able to unleash its true power. I watched as this kick was delivered. Latong Duan truly did not expect it, and in a mere heartbeat, he was struck backward. His chest shuddered violently, and he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood as he was sent flying back 3 zhang. Unable to maintain his footing, he crashed to the ground and tumbled 3 times over. Everyone stood stunned, silenced by the sight. What is happening? Was the master supposed to be going easy on his disciple? How has it come to this? A burst of resounding applause suddenly erupted. It was Pang Long. He stood up, his face filled with excitement. Very good, your level of technique has far exceeded my expectations. From the moment he saw me unleash that kick, Pang Long began to view me with entirely different eyes. This is because the Four Directions fist was personally created by the Manor Master himself during his leisure time. At that moment, he struck upon a strange idea, to integrate kicking techniques into the fist manual to achieve an unexpected catching off guard effect. This secret was known only to Pang Long. When he taught the Four Directions fist to the guards, he did not intentionally mention it. Until now, I am the only one who has been able to execute this kick. Relying on this point alone is enough to command Pang Long's attention. Very good, Xian, you have passed the examination. Pang Long strode forward, laughing heartily, and patted my shoulder firmly. I smiled, but remained silent. How did you know? That the Four Directions fist was actually a technique involving the feet? Pang Long asked. After practicing for so long, it simply felt more logical to use the feet rather than the fists. I replied casually. Very good, very good, you possess great intuition. Pang Long said, this is a bone-refining pill. Take it and use it. From this day forward, you are an official guard of the inner courtyard, starting tomorrow. Beyond your martial training, you will also be required to participate in the duties of the guards. Do your best and do not be negligent. I will certainly do so. I nodded firmly. The examination had concluded. Luotong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and walked up to me as if intending to say something. His expression shifted rapidly. He appeared both furious and perplexed, simultaneously astonished and awkward, seemingly wanting to preserve some shred of dignity, yet in the end he could not swallow his pride. Finally he narrowed his eyes, ceased his pretense, cast a cold glare, let out a sharp snort, and departed. Old Fourth, congratulations. Zhao Han and the others approached, sharing in my joy. Old Fourth, you have a bright future ahead of you. Do you realize that Commander Pang has set his sights on you? I felt a flicker of tiger blood pill. This is actually a tiger blood pill. Zuoyili said, we have already passed the recruit examination. Commander Pang only rewarded us with rank 6 blood pills. Compared to a tiger blood pill, the difference is like heaven and earth. The fourth brother Zhao Han spoke with a heavy expression. You had best consume this tiger blood pill immediately. If you do not, you will undoubtedly become a target for others. No sooner had he finished speaking than a figure blocked their path not far ahead. It was Jiang Yun, a second-grade guard they had encountered a few days prior. Are you Li Xuan? Jiang Yun strode forward, closing the distance, and said nonchalantly, will you sell this tiger blood pill or not? I apologize, but I am not selling. I spoke with a tone of feigned regret. Though I was polite, there was not a trace of subservience in my voice. Jiang Yun narrowed his eyes. You are merely a lowly 4th-grade guard. Consuming a tiger blood pill is a total waste of heaven's treasures. Are you certain you will not sell? I am willing to pay 500 copper coins. Zhao Han whispered. This tiger blood pill is worth at least 700 copper coins. Before the words had even left his mouth, 2 crisp sounds echoed and Zhao Han's cheeks instantly swelled up. That fellow Zhang Yun had slapped him twice without a word, his movements blindingly fast. I could not even discern how he had struck. Zhao Han was left dazed and disoriented, nearly collapsing to the ground. Jiang Yun looked on with utter disgust. Do you need to run your mouth regarding the value of a tiger blood pill? Do you think I am unaware of its worth? He stepped closer, pressing his advantage. Will you sell, or will you not? I shook my head and said I apologize, but no. Are you not afraid that I will strike you as well? Jiang Yun spoke in a frigid tone, power already surging into his palm. If you wish to strike, then strike. I admit that I cannot defeat you at this moment. If you wish to rob me, then rob me. I acknowledge that I am currently no match for you. My tone remained calm, yet I did not yield. One day I will surely make you pay back this debt with interest. Very well, brat. Zhang Yun gritted his teeth, truly finding himself at a loss for the moment. Why would I not want to simply seize it by force? It is just that Commander Pang Long had only just bestowed the tiger blood pill, and if it were snatched away immediately after, it would show a blatant disregard for his authority. Zhang Yun realized she would soon be returning empty-handed, and overcome with fury, she prepared to teach me a lesson. Yet seeing my expression remained calm and devoid of fear, a wicked idea took root in her mind. She shifted her attention toward Wang Xuan and Zhuo Yili, and with a series of sharp cracks, she landed 4 slaps on each of their faces. Her speed was so blinding that by the time she ceased her assault, the 2 men only just began to feel the searing, burning pain spreading across their cheeks. Remember this well, this beating is on him, for he is the one who caused your misfortune. If either of you dares to breathe a word of this to Pang Long, I shall hunt you down every single day to settle the score. Zhang Yun walked away, not forgetting to cast a vicious glare in my direction. That woman possesses a truly sinister heart. I frowned and asked with concern, big brother, second brother, third brother, are you all right? It is nothing. Wang Xuan managed a strange smile. Do we look like nothing? Zhao Han wiped his eyes. He was not crying from sorrow, but because the intense pain in his cheeks had forced tears to well up. She has cultivated her jade conch palm to the stage of great completion. Zhao Han touched his cheek, his eyes turning bloodshot. His appearance was truly frightening. If my guess is correct, before long the faces of us 3 will swell to a grotesque size. The internal energy of the jade conch palm will remain trapped within our flesh, eventually leaving permanent handprint scars. If we cannot neutralize that energy, our faces will be scarred for life. My heart sank at the thought. Is there any way to neutralize it? There is, Zhao Han replied with a bitter laugh, by begging Zhang Yun to help us resolve this fate. She only needs to strike us a few more times with all her might. Is that even possible? That woman Zhang Yun is known for her cruelty. Wang Xuan clutched his cheek, and upon realizing the gravity of the situation, his expression became unreadable. Perhaps it is possible. Halfway through the sentence, the atmosphere grew deathly silent. I understood what he meant. Zhang Yun Sudsnor had one primary goal, the tiger blood pill. As long as I obediently agreed to sell the tiger blood pill to Zhang Yun, all these troubles would likely vanish. I clenched my fists tightly, looking at the 3 of them. Their cheeks were steadily swelling, growing as large as fists, making them look like a pair of pig heads. Soon enough, I fear their state will become even more terrifying. The silence among the 3 revealed the internal conflict tearing at their minds. If we report this to Commander Bang, is there any way to resolve it? I asked. Zhao Han shook his head. In the training grounds, there are hundreds of guards, all of whom are martial practitioners. Usually, if there are disputes or frictions, Commander Bang never intervenes. A martial artist must possess spirit. They cannot be overly restricted. Bang Long values order above all else. Given these rules, he will certainly not interfere. That path was closed. I thought to myself, they have treated me well, and it was only to defend my honor that they suffered this calamity. If I were the only one enduring the lashes, it would matter little, but dragging them into this was truly not what I wanted. Seeing the miserable state of the 3, I let out a soft sigh and pursued the direction where Xiang Yun had gone. Not having gone far, I indeed caught sight of Xiang Yun's figure. I furrowed my brows and shouted in a deep voice, "You want the tiger blood pill, don't you?" Xiang Yun was sitting on a tree branch, seemingly aware that I would follow, and offered a faint smile. "You don't want it anymore then? Unless you kneel down and beg me to purchase it. Perhaps then I might show mercy and begrudgingly buy this blood-strengthening pill." I stared intensely at Xiang Yun, my brow tightly knit, my eyes narrowed. Just moments ago, driven by my concern for my companions, I had truly contemplated relinquishing the blood-strengthening pill. Yet the very moment I looked at Xiang Yun again, that thought vanished. While Zhao Han and the others selling the blood-strengthening pill was an act of righteousness, and certainly not something to be condemned, there are some things that cannot be gained through pleading or concession. If I were to kneel now and beg him to sell it cheaply, could I be certain that Xiang Yun would actually help me heal the injuries of Zhao Han's group? My gaze gradually grew resolute. It was not guaranteed, and the possibility was incredibly slim. Because he is likely to break his word, the weak choose to kneel and beg, while the strong choose to fight with courage. Selling the blood-strengthening pill might buy a moment of peace, but if in the future this wretch Xiang Yun finds himself in a foul mood and decides to strike us again, what are we to do then? Since that is the case, it would be better for me to find a way to master the Bilo Spear, reach the stage of great success, and personally dispel the internal energy plaguing Zhao Han's group. If you have no need for this blood-nourishing pill, then very well, let us part ways here.